Oh my Lord. Good people. For all of you who are still out there in Legends in the Law land, I just thank you so much for hanging in there. We're gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to run it back. We're gonna have to do two with Billy because this we can't have it cut short. And um I'm a woosah. I'm a woosah. I appreciate all the messages coming through. Like, where y'all at? Did I miss it? What's going on? We are here. We are here. We are here. We are here. And I'm so grateful for everyone who is tuned in. Yes, Liz, Angela, Nasir, Edwin, Kendra, Tati, all y'all. Thank you for everyone for saying what in the world is going on, right? What in the world is going on? Let me. All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me loud and clear, good people? Lord, I'm just so excited to be here with you. We had a whole lot of technical issues this afternoon. Look, the devil trying to stop us because they know Billy got them gems, right? So we're gonna drop them gems later for you this afternoon. I'm super excited. Billy has been a tremendous force in my own career, as I've just been a burgeoning young Black female attorney in Baltimore trying to make a difference. And he's the real deal, right? And it's a testimony because so many folks reached out to me before this even started. Folks were like, I can't make it. Is it going to be recorded? I have to be there. So many folks, and I'm going to get into this with Billy when he comes on. So many folks were even like, I know this man. We grew up together. I lived around the corner. So he has had such a far and wide reach. And I'm not going to get into his bio because I'm going to let y'all do that digging him yourself on Google. That's going to boost his search engine optimization. All right. When everybody is out there looking for him, but he is the real deal. And we're going to go through his career. We're going to hear the gems about what he believes the state of the Black lawyer is. We're going to talk about his advice for all of you who are looking, whether you're a lawyer or not, who's looking to blaze your own path in this world. So without further ado, because, we behind schedule, some of y'all are on a lunch break and got to get to it, Mr. Billy Murphy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. After I get off of this, I'm going to go have a drink and just get myself together. But I'm glad that we are here and we're making it happen. How are you?
I'm happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, of course, of course.
You're not exactly a stranger.
I am not. I am not. Many a times I've been in your office, like, and you've been such a generous counsel to me personally and to so many in Baltimore and beyond. And this is a real treat for those of you tuning in to be able to just connect with the man, the legend. And you saw on his on the advertisement that I had, the flyer, right? Master negotiator, right? So we're gonna get into that too. But Billy, can you please? So we got to start at the beginning, because you started out in law school at a time when we were not welcomed with open arms, right? And you decided that the law was going to be your vehicle of choice to make a difference. Why?
Well, I started out in the aerospace industry after I graduated from MIT, and I did that for about a year, and that was all I could take. And the last straw for me was when my boss came in and said, Murphy, how do you like Georgia? And at the time, Lester Maddox was the governor of Georgia, and he had come to fame and fortune because he chased Black people out of his restaurant while they were trying to sit in. And he chased them with an axe handle. And he might have beaten 2 or 3 of them in the process. And that made him enormously popular among the white population of Georgia. And despite the fact that he had a 10th grade education, they elected him governor of Georgia. And so I asked my boss, I said, why are you asking me that? Don't you know Lester Maddox is the governor of Georgia and he hates Black people? He said, son, you've been sold to the Lockheed Corporation in Marietta, Georgia. I said, sold? I thought only a baseball player or a slave could get sold. He said, son, I've never seen you in uniform. He said, you think this is about race, don't you? I said, why shouldn't I? He said, come with me. And he took me out to the floor. And all these white men, because there were only 7 black engineers out of about 4,000 at the company then in Middle River, uh, they were all crying because they'd been given the same news and they had to pack up and leave, even though many of them had been with the company 30 years, 25 years, 20 years, 10 years, 15 years. They were being uprooted because Martin had too many engineers. It had just lost a big military contract, and they wanted to shed their excess engineers. And the Lockheed Corporation had won the contract, and they were buying all of us. I said, well, doesn't sound like a place I want to be. And so I started looking, and my father was a lawyer. I knew I could do that. I looked at the alternatives, medicine, dentistry, all the professions. I wasn't ready for that, but I was ready to be a lawyer. And so reluctantly, I went to law school. I was an enthusiastic student because I believed in getting straight A's in everything. Mm. And so I applied myself, and I was the only black in the class after the other black, a guy named Hinton, who was a cameraman at WJZ TV, decided to drop out in the middle of the first semester because he thought law was not relevant to the black community. His exact words.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Well, I said, bye-bye. Sorry to see you go, but we got to get some more black people in here, because I was the first black to be admitted in the day school in the preceding 6 years. Joe Thomas, a black lawyer many of you might remember, who's no longer with us, was the last black to be admitted to the day school. There were about 5 blacks in the night school. That was wholly unsatisfactory, because in the day school alone, there were 130 of us, and I was the only one. So I started the Black Law Students Association and called a friend of mine named David Allen, who was in the night school, Milton Allen's son, and say, hey, man, I'm going to start this organization. You want to help? And so together, we started the first BALSA chapter in the country. Wow. And by the time I left in 1969, graduated, there were 15 of us. And in the meantime, we made the University of Maryland agree to the first affirmative action program in its history. And the goals and timetables were that 20% blacks, 50% women, and get ready to start recruiting people. Well, the dean was a racist. His name was Cunningham from Boston. And he wasn't interested in even trying to get more blacks, even though we had reached an agreement. And so we did our own recruiting. We went to all the HBCUs and all the black this and the black that. And we started getting people interested in going to law school. And you know the rest.
Yeah.
And then I went out into private practice in 1970 after I clerked on the Court of Special Appeals for the chief judge, a guy named Bob Murphy, an Irish Murphy.
And for those who don't know, in Maryland, the court, that is our highest court, a court of appeals.
No, it's Court of Special Appeals.
You went to the Court of Special. So we have basically your circuit court, your Court of Special Appeals, and your Court of Appeals. So that's like that's our appeals court for those who are not in Maryland.
Right. And a clerk is the person who writes the opinions for the judge subject to his approval and correction. And it was a heck of a job, because at that time, the Court of Special Appeals was an all criminal court. It only took criminal appeals. Okay. Well, that suited me fine, because my interest was criminal law. And because I wanted to be the baddest whoever did it, I read every case decided by the courts of appeal from 1930 to the present time. And so I knew more law than any of the judges when I got started, because I'd read all these cases, and that's how I got started.
Yeah. So that wasn't,
thanks to the black community's support, my office was overwhelmed with clients, especially after I represented the Black Panther Party in my very first case.
All right, let's get
Uh,
into that. Let's get into that. Let's just dive right in. Now we got Billy Murphy's firm, and you're like, I'm open. Doors are open, and the Black Panther Party's like, hello.
well, we started. Leroy Carroll and I actually were partners at the time. He was leaving Milton Allen's office, and he asked me to cut my clerkship short and join him in the practice of law. Um, and I had practiced for the previous 9 months with my, well, actually the next 9 months, it was a continuation of my father's firm. And so we made it formal. But my father got elected judge in 1970, and he had to do that. And that was a full-time job. So that left Leroy Carroll and I. And Leroy was one of the baddest dudes I have ever met, seen, encountered. Smart as he could be. He won his first 45 out of 46 jury trials. Nobody in Maryland's ever done that. Not even me. I tried to duplicate it. I couldn't duplicate that. And he taught me how to win.
Yeah.
And
what would you
I
say
started winning.
for all of those attorneys out there, right, who want to be the next badass, who want to build their practice, who want to put their best foot forward? What was it about his teachings that helped you to be a winner, right? In your words, to win?
Well, my father was a successful practitioner, and in the beginning, he was a solo practitioner. He started his practice where we lived, and that was Cherry Hill. We moved into Cherry Hill in 1946 on Sethlow Road, 2700 block of Sethlow Road. We were the fifth family to move into Cherry Hill. And I had a wonderful time in Cherry Hill. And my father moved us there because he wanted to live with poor people. He didn't want to live with middle-class Black people. He didn't really respect middle-class Black people. You know, he wanted to live with the people that did the dirty work. And he wanted me to get to know what that was all about so that I would not view Black people as an abstraction.
Come on.
By living in some white neighborhood looking across the pond, although that was not an option because of segregation. We couldn't live in white neighborhoods. I think the northest part we could live in 1946 was North Avenue, and we were confined to two neighborhoods, one in East Baltimore and one in West Baltimore, and we couldn't move outside of those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So when you decided to represent the Black Panther Party, right? What was the climate then, and what was your role in for them?
Well, Dr. King had been assassinated in 1968. The mood was not good. The FBI had started what's called the COINTEL program, and my mother and father made me organize Cherry Hill. And so I was a community organizer until I went to law school. I started 3 organizations in Cherry Hill and a total of 7 or 8 before it was over. And the goal was to get people started and understand how to organize the community and then transfer the leadership to them and move on and organize some other part of the community and do the same thing. It was the Saul Alinsky model. He was the model that most of the successful civil rights organizations followed. He wrote the book on how to organize the community. And so organizing, the Black law students and keeping that organization alive was part of what I did professionally. Yeah. And it is thriving today. We have graduated so many Black lawyers from the University of Maryland and now from the University of Baltimore after these institutions were totally segregated.
Yeah.
So that's a satisfying part of it. But let me tell you about the Black Panther thing. Yes. Allegedly, 3 Black Panthers who were carrying weapons at the time from point A to point B were walking down Myrtle Avenue and they thought that two police officers who were sitting in their squad cars writing reports were on to them. And allegedly, they turned around, went back, and shot them to death, and then took their guns back to their headquarters. Well, that started a big outcry, as you would understand. And it was bedlam. And so one of the things that happened was the Attorney General filed a motion to get an injunction against the distribution of the Black Panther newspaper in Baltimore and in Maryland. And that's a forbidden act. That's called a prior restraint. It's the worst violation of the First Amendment. But a judge in Baltimore granted their request, and the Panthers, and you never will imagine who was the head of the Panthers at the time, Paul Coates, the father of Ta-Nehisi Coates.
That's right. Yeah.
And so he was my first client. And we got the injunction dissolved, and my phone started jumping off the hook. And as part of what caused that, the first two people I cross-examined in my career was the head of the FBI for Maryland, a guy named Tully, and the head of the Baltimore City Police, a terrible guy named Donald Pomerleau, cold-blooded racist. And my cross-examinations made the front page of the paper, of the Sun paper. And so I was afraid that I was a little too militant for the Black community, you know, and that Black people say, oh, we're not going to deal with him. It was just the opposite.
Yeah.
Man, my phone just jumped off the hook.
Yeah.
And my practice exploded, all because of the Black community taking care of me and protecting me, encouraging me, teaching me. You know, I owe everything I am today to my mother and father and to the support of the Black community in the earliest days of my practice.
Amen. Awesome. I mean, so I realized as you said that, right, that I jumped right in. I don't even think I said my name, right? Keisha Brown, for those who don't know, and I'm the founder of Justice Connection. And Justice Connection is the premier Black lawyer referral and legal resource platform. So it's all about cultivating a network of Black lawyers in private practice and being a better connector to our own community, right? And so when you tell that story, it hits home because I will tell you, when I started Justice Connection, I wasn't sure if Black people would say, yes, I want a Black lawyer. Yes, I'm ready. I want to be connected. And I will tell you the response from our community, right? Because Black lawyers sometimes will say, oh, I don't know if I can build a practice or make a living by serving just Black people or being attentive to the Black community. And the Black community, far and wide, churches, organizations, individuals, all said, yes, we would love to have a resource to connect us to Black lawyers, right? We want to hear from Black lawyers. We want to hire Black lawyers. We want to see Black lawyers. And so the example, you know, your experience early on in your career with the Black community supporting you then and now is a testimony to how our community just needs each other in order to thrive. So,
well, you know, it's I think the closer you are to the Black community, the more support you're going to get from the Black community. The more you do for the Black community, the more the Black community is going to do for you. And my experience with the Black community is that if you fight for them, they're going to fight for you. If you give all that you have to them, they're going to give all they have back to you.
Yeah.
That's never changed. It's always been true. And so my recommendation to young lawyers is make sure you at home in the Black community and that you understand everything that's going on in that community and that you are part of it. Because white folks are not going to beat down your door. Black folks will give you all the support that you need if you give Black folks all of the support they need.
That's right. Yeah. No, I love so as you grew, because I there's so many folks who are listening, and I don't know if you see the comments, Billy. You know, folks are just much respect, respect, love this amazing history. Of course, look, let me tell you, I love his militancy. Billy, tell it as it is, right? He's not gonna hold no punches. And so at some point, right, as you're making this impact, you thought about becoming a judge, right? And your father was a judge, as you said, and you felt you met some obstacles in that journey. Could you share a little bit about that?
Well, my father got elected to what was then called the municipal court in 1970 when Parent Mitchell became the first black congressman. Milton Allen was elected as the first black state's attorney in the country. Um, uh, Paul Chester was elected as the first black court clerk in Baltimore history. And I had run for the House of Delegates that year, and I lost by between 300 and 400 votes. I spent the princely sum of $500 on my campaign, but we knocked on a lot of doors. And that helped me build my practice as well. So here we are in practice. I've got Leroy Carroll, who's a genius. I mean, brilliant, brilliant black man who's teaching me how to win. And Leroy won, it's not an exaggeration to say 99% of his jury trials.
Wow.
But I was only winning 91% of mine. Now, how do I know the number? Because a white guy wanted to hire me. He was the head of the criminal assignment unit in the courthouse, and I knew him pretty well from that. And he was in charge of the computer system that we had. And so when this white politician got indicted who was close to him, he told him he was going to get him the best lawyer in Maryland. And so one night I get a call from this guy, and he said, "Bill, do you represent white people?" Well, I burst out laughing because he didn't understand. We don't do the picking of the clients do the picking of the lawyers. And he didn't see that I had much of a white clientele, but I didn't care. And that's why he thought I didn't represent white folks. No, they weren't hiring black lawyers back then. So I said, "Why are you calling me at 11 o'clock at night?" I was down at the office working. So he said, "Well, Bill, I run the computer system, and I programmed the computer to tell me by my criterion who was the best lawyer in Maryland."
Okay.
I said, "Hold it. Did you call anybody else before you called me?" He said, "No, no. Why you say that? Because it sounds like you getting ready to say I won. Is that what you're talking about?" He said, "Well, Bill, yes, you are far and away statistically the best lawyer." And I said, "Well, who else is involved in, and I started naming these household names, these white boys. They didn't even make 50%. I was shocked. There was
Yeah.
one guy whose record was over 50% wins in cases, and that was the guy I went to law school with named Anton Keating. He was 64%. There was nobody who cracked 40%. Everybody was gathered around 25% to 30% wins. Well, that
Let
meant
that be a
75.
lesson to everybody listening, because sometimes we
Yeah.
see the billboards, you see the signs, you see the flash, you see the cars, and you think they must be winning, but it's all smoke and mirrors sometimes. All smoke and mirrors.
Well, but that's the only way I measure how good lawyers are. What's their one loss percentage? But you see, black folks don't know how to pick lawyers.
Hmm.
They go to the telephone book, they look at the TV ads, and so they end up with these chumps, who are not getting good results. They're used to getting low pay from black people because most black people who need a criminal lawyer are broke. 95% of the black people who get prosecuted get public defenders.
Mm.
Now, that shows you how poor the black community has become in Baltimore. Back when I was practicing, we had a black middle class in Baltimore, and they would pool their money together, their extended family, to pay me. And so I had a thriving practice. I wasn't charging excessive fees, but I was charging what was necessary to do all of the work that had to be done, which made my price higher than almost all the white boys because they weren't doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
They were rolling everybody over, pleading them guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys from that era is still doing that. His name is Ron Kurland. And I had him on the witness stand once, and I made him admit that he pled 99% of his clients guilty. Literally 99%. He couldn't remember whether he had a jury trial before in his entire career, and he never took bench trials. And so you had a 99% chance if you walk into his office, and he was representing a lot, he still is representing a huge amount of black people. You had 99% chance of getting found guilty.
Wow.
But that's how we get treated.
It is.
And so, I've always been death on those kind of guys.
Yeah.
So that motivated me to be even better than I originally wanted to be. I didn't want to be like them.
Right.
And so, I said, look, you mind talking to a reporter? Because I want the world to know what you're telling me.
Come on.
Yeah. And so in 1975, Dwayne Wickham wrote the story in the Sun paper. And Dwayne is now the head of the journalism school at Morgan after a distinguished career at USA Today and at the Baltimore Afro-American and at the Baltimore Sun. And he broke the story.
Wow. Are y'all also noticing how his memory is like, I'm like, what did I have for dinner yesterday? And he breaking down cases that he had like 40, 50 years ago.
Well, you know what they say, that as you get older, your memory of ancient events gets better, but your memory of recent events gets worse.
Fair enough.
Well, I'm fortunate that hasn't happened to me.
No, at all. But
all parts of everything work.
I want you to talk about
thank the Lord.
Your pathway to being a judge, because
here's how that happened.
Huh?
Here's how that happened.
Yeah.
I got sick and tired of nothing but white male governors picking nothing but white men with maybe a thimbleful of women. And so I told Harry Hughes, after Bob Bell and David Mitchell made the list for judge, I told Harry Hughes in 1979, I said, if you don't pick both of those black men to become judge, I'm throwing my hat in the ring and I'm going to run against all of them. And I'm going to pick up Bob Bell on my ticket, or whoever you pick, that one black, and together we going to beat all of y'all. He said, oh, Bill, why don't you just apply? You'd get it. I said, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be selected by you or anybody else in the white community because I'm not your kind of black man.
Come on.
And so, let's don't blow smoke up each other's butts. And that's exactly the tone of the conversation. And so when he only picked Bob Bell, and there were 5 that were running, I got mad and I said, I'm running, even though it meant abandoning my practice. And I think the preceding year I had done extremely well. And so it was a big financial sacrifice. And to this day, I'm not sure why I did that. I went, judges back then didn't make much money at all. And so it was a big drop in income, but I'm glad I did it because it made the point. And from that moment on, black folk have not been afraid either in Prince George's County or Baltimore City to challenge the sitting judges and run if they think there are not enough black judges on the ticket.
Yeah.
And that in turn forced governors to appoint black judges every time,
Hmm.
not once in a while.
Right.
You had to have a ticket that had enough blacks that the Billy Murphys of the world wouldn't run against them.
Right. Right.
So
No. So
I
yeah. Go
sat
ahead.
for about 2.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I decided to run for mayor. And Schaefer kicked my butt. But in the process, I got more black votes than any black who had ever run for mayor, including Kurt Schmoke. Because all my votes were black. I got 60 some thousand votes. And I think Kurt at his high point got a total of maybe 70,000, including whites. But there were white folks didn't vote for me. They
Yeah.
did not vote for me.
Yeah.
I was not their kind of Negro. I'm still not that kind of Negro.
Come on. Authentic. That was something that someone described you as authentic, right? And
Well, you
genuine.
can be authentic in a million different ways. That just means you being yourself,
Yeah.
you know. And myself, I'm a militant black man who's angry about racism
Yeah.
and been committed to fighting it for my entire life. And I don't see things getting particularly good for us.
Hmm.
Look what Trump did to the Supreme Court. Now the Clarence Thomases of the world are in the majority, and Clarence Thomas wants to put us back in bondage.
Hmm.
You ought to see the laundry list of things he wrote in a recent Supreme Court opinion that he wants to achieve.
Yeah.
He wants to roll back individual rights and liberties. He doesn't want the Fourth Amendment to apply to the states anymore. He doesn't want the First Amendment to apply to the states. He doesn't want any of the Bill of Rights to apply to the states. And so that upends 160 years, 180 years of jurisprudence. Come on. But that's where he wants to take us. He wants to take us back to the cabin where his mentality is, Uncle
Yeah.
Tom's cabin.
Hmm. Yeah. So I
And yeah, I
mean,
said it. We got an Uncle Tom on the Supreme Court.
Thurgood is just keeps rolling over, just
Oh my
um,
God.
having him in that seat in that
He's
place.
the anti Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
George Bush Sr. appointed him at John Ashcroft's recommendation. John Ashcroft was a racist attorney general that worked in the Bush administration. And he cultivated this kid, Clarence Thomas, by putting him in charge of the uh,
EEOC, right?
EOC,
Hmm.
where he did a miserable job. That was why he put him there, because he knew he was an anti-Negro.
Yeah. What do you think is the role of the black lawyer in this state that we're in, right? The realities with the Supreme Court, the realities of the daily assaults on the black community. What's the role of the black lawyer now?
To fight like hell. I'm gonna tell you I lost my third jury trial in my career, and I was beyond upset. So I went back into the cell block and I apologized to my client. I said, "Man, I thought we had it. I'm so sorry." He said, "Lawyer, you ain't got nothing to be sorry about." He said, "Let me tell you something." He was crying
Mm,
when he said this. He said, "You are the first black man in my entire life who fought for me."
mm,
And he said, "You really fought for me, man. So you ain't got nothing to worry about." Well, that was a big lesson, because that's what we still need. That's what black people need. That's what everybody needs. Somebody's going to just knock them out, get in the ring and just slug it, give it all you got.
yeah,
Train hard for the fight. Be prepared. Know everything you can about the case. Know everything you can about the law. So you are more prepared than anybody else. And look, we still think in our deepest subconscious that white folks are smarter than us. that they know things that we don't know or not capable of learning, that we're essentially less human than they are.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, racism is based on the premise that we are subhuman. Now, if you teach a community this, I don't care whether they're white, black, purple, that a different color is superior to you and that your color brands you less than human, if you do it over and over again and you treat people that way over and over again for like 100 years, oh, it's deep in their subconscious. But if
Yeah.
it's 150 years, it's deeper in their subconscious. And if it's 200 years, it's even deeper. And if it's 250 years, it's even deeper. And
Yeah.
now this is what, 300 years, close to 400 years of it? This notion that we are less than human has been pumped into our brains because for the first 350 years of it, we could only do what white folks let us do. And we had to do what they told us to do. Give me a break. And
Yeah.
you wonder why black kids are not motivated to go to school? And I'm not talking about all black people. Some black people have shook it off. Some black people are fully awake and
Mm-hmm.
their children go to great schools. They get great educations and they move on to very, very high level careers in America. But what about everybody else?
That's right.
You know? And so my job is to get everybody else in shape by any way I can. My job is to motivate my clients to become great and to embrace greatness as a way of life, to embrace excellence in all things as a way of life. And so you don't just get representation when you come to me, you get reorientation. You know, because if you want me bad enough, I got you in my clutches and you're not going to leave my service until we learn some new lessons together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that vested interest, right?
Oh,
That's the,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
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 I have never in my life wanted to be white. I have never in my life thought that being black was a handicap because of my mother and father. My mother and father taught me I was smarter than any white man. He said, and they said, let's modify that a little bit. Every once in a while, you're going to meet somebody smarter than you,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
ain't going to be frequent. And they also said, don't underestimate anybody. And so when I'm outside of Maryland and I'm talking to black folks, they say, what do you do for a living? I say, I think white people for a living.
Come on.
And that's what I do. Look, all of my opponents, I rarely in my career have had a black lawyer as an opponent. Isn't that sad?
Mm.
And
Mm.
so my record is based on beating white folks. And it's no problem because they just like us. Mostly average, with some geniuses and an overabundance of fools,
Mm.
just like us.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can't beat the average white man who's crippled by this false belief that you are less than human,
Mm-hmm.
who underestimates you, something wrong with you. And what's wrong is that embedded teaching. And so I try to shift people's attitudes from can't do, won't let you do, to I can do anything I want to do.
Amen.
And look, there's no sign on the library door that says niggas not allowed, you know, and so nobody can stop you from reading, learning, working as hard to develop your craft as you feel like it. But look, a lot of us have gotten lazy.
Mm.
And, you know, the smartest slave was the slave who avoided work. That was the smartest slave. Well, if we've been avoiding work as best we can for all of these years because the white man wouldn't pay us, the white man wouldn't treat us right. The white man had us in bondage, all these years. That's part of the attitude we bring. And unless we change it, because we're not working for him anymore. We're working for ourselves. We're working for our families. We're working for our communities. And until we get that in our head, we're not going to want to embrace work so that we do all of the work all of the time. Look, I'm around white folks all the time, and there's a group of them that believe in that. Mm-hmm. They work their fingers to the bone to get prepared. So what do I have to do to beat them? I got to work my fingers to the bone too. I got to work harder. And I'll tell you this, Black people, nobody can stop you from being prepared to deal with this white man. The only enemy you have is yourself. Now, is that going to change? Yes. Trump is going to change that. Trump put these extra racist judges on the court to roll back all of our rights to what they used to be, as though there was no civil rights movement, to roll back women's rights so they're no longer going to be able to make decisions about their own body. And it's going to get worse than it is now by a lot, because this Supreme Court is our enemy. I wish it weren't so.
Yeah.
It's the first time they've had this kind of majority since segregation. And, they don't respect our rights. They've made that clear. And so, Black folks, we need people to fight this battle who are prepared, who have made themselves prepared to fight it. If you're selling drugs on the corner, you ain't prepared to fight this. If you, drop out of high school, you ain't prepared to fight this. We need to let our brains work. You see, the thing about being a human being is that you have this genius thing between your ears called a brain. Everybody with a normal brain, and that's the Black community and the white community, normal brains, is a genius. And we can do genius things. But if you are taught that you can't, you won't.
Yeah.
If you are taught that of course you can, you will. Now, which category are you in? The one that's been taught that there's nothing that can stop you from being anything you want to be? Or are you one that feels limited in what you can do? Well, you know which one's worse. You know that the can't do is the wrong attitude. And Dr. King said it best. He said, it's not your aptitude that determines your altitude. It's your attitude. And if you got a messed up attitude, change it. Become a can-do person. Become a person with lofty goals, high goals, goals that are outrageous to everybody but you. Now, I'll tell you why that's real.
Yeah.
We do it in the entertainment field, and that includes sports, because the only reason that those athletes are getting paid is they make white folks a lot of money running that ball, dunking that ball, dribbling that ball, kicking that ball. They make white folks a lot of money singing, dancing, composing extraordinary music, shows that are put together so professionally at such a high level of production that it amazes everybody. And we do it over and over. And so look at our ego in the areas called entertainment of white folks. We believe we are the baddest entertainers and athletes on the planet. And so when we get involved in that kind of stuff, we try to emulate the baddest of the bad. And they're all Black people. So in basketball, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, and the list goes on and on. And look at how hard these kids work to become basketball players. They spend day and night on the asphalt, learning how to dribble between their legs, throw the ball behind their backs, no look passes, dunking, all
Yeah.
the innovations we brought to the game. Well, if we have that same work ethic and we pursue medicine, we'll be extraordinary doctors. Or if we have that same work ethic and we pursue any field, law, for example, we'll be extraordinary lawyers. But we're not. We're not. Dr. King saw it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad used to teach us to change it. You know, he said, leave this white man alone and develop yourself, black man. Learn how to take care of your families in extraordinary ways. Get into your own businesses. Stop worrying about this white man and worrying about your self-development. Now, of course, we don't have much of the black leadership community teaching that, except on an individual basis. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was trying to teach all of us that lesson. Farrakhan tries to teach us the same thing. But there are many parts of our community where it hasn't sunk in.
Yeah.
And see, what we've learned is the white man ain't going to get us out of this problem.
Come on.
If he wanted to, he could. But
They
he don't
never
want
coming
to.
for us. That's right.
Yeah. He hasn't compensated us for the past sins, which are grievous, inflicted on us. And he won't. And if you get reparations, you'll be arguing that it's too small an amount because he ain't about to give us what we deserve. We got to take it back. And that means we have to be fearless.
That's right.
See, too many of us are too afraid of this white man. We are. And by the way, if there are any white people listening, if what I'm saying doesn't apply to you because you're not racist, you ain't going to be mad at what I'm saying. But the rest of you get mad. Oh, I wonder who you really are. And so the truth should not make you mad, white folks. It should help you understand who you've been dealing with in the black community and why we're the way we are. And, you know, that's another problem. If you look at today's Republican Party, it's the party of racism. I mean, all the way live down the road, as racist as you can be. They don't even want black history to be taught in schools. They don't want our rightful role in the development of America and what really happened to us to be taught in any school. If that isn't racist, my name isn't Billy Murphy. What else could it be? And that's today's racism.
Right.
It's not yesterday. And so here we are. We can't even learn about ourselves and our role in history by going to public school. Now, some of the private schools, and I say some, have become more, quote, progressive. But they haven't solved their problems completely. And now we see that more enlightened white institutions are confessing their historical racism. For example, the Baltimore Sun. It has confessed about how racist they were up until recently. The New York Times confessed its racism until recently. So, look, there's a movement going on to correct all of this. And to quote somebody in the movement, I think it was Fannie Lou Hamer, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. If you ain't out here really fighting to remedy what's been done to us in our community, you're on the side of this white man, whether you believe it or not. You can't sit on the sidelines of this fight. And the fight is going to get worse. You know, white folks got so many guns now. And we talking about gun control. I'm sorry. I want a gun. You know, I don't want somebody to come up in my house and I'm unarmed. Now, this packing stuff, That's going way too far. But the Supreme Court just ruled that everybody can pack. Don't need a permit. Everybody can pack. Really? So
Right.
is that how extreme it's going to get?
Yeah.
And so they moving in the wrong direction. So
Yeah.
America has become fully armed. They're rejoicing. A part of the white community loves that they can carry guns on the streets wherever they go without a permit. There's some in the black community that's celebrating that too. Because if you're a smart black person, you know you've got to be armed. Now, am I advocating violence? No, no. I'm not violent until you do something to threaten my life or my physical integrity. Then I'm going to fight you back.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you threaten somebody's physical integrity is close to me, then or a stranger. I mean, if I see a thug beating up a little old lady on the street, I'm gonna do something. I ain't gonna run away and go, oh my God. You got to jump in there and protect that woman.
Yeah.
And I
Really?
understand it might help with that, but damn.
Yeah. Yeah. That's real.
Radical
So
Supreme.
you said what?
A radical Supreme Court is what we have now.
Yeah. It's scary. I mean, I told y'all, I mean, some of y'all already knew, but I told y'all it was gonna be everything. Okay. But I want you talked.
But isn't it sad that
It is.
you got to introduce somebody in the black community like that? Because we all should be this way. We all should be this way.
But you have a as you said, fearlessness, right? And I agree. Like, I think it's all about what we put into ourselves, and your parents laid that foundation for you by putting in that good stuff to build you up in a way that allowed your own character and personality to develop and flourish, and reach your purpose and your potential. And so for those who are on this journey, and even in this moment saying, yes, I too want to be reinvigorated and to reset. What is it? You even talked about, like, whether it's books. I mean, for myself, I can't listen to everything. I don't listen to all types of music. I don't listen to all types of books. I don't listen to all types of people, because it is really important what you put into yourself, that allows you to be self-motivated, inspired, and focused in the work that we need to do. So what is it that are there any things that you could recommend, right? Whether it's books that you say, hey, you need to have this on your shelf, because we see the shelf behind you stacked, right? So are there things that you would say,
and you see
hey,
my drums over there too, right?
I do, because then you gotta have the balance.
Drums.
You gotta have the balance, right? You gotta have the man of many talents. We're gonna have a whole nother session on Billy on the drum. That's a whole nother life right there. But what would you suggest for folks to read, right? What are some things that you'd say, hey, this is something that that you should check out?
Well, among my favorite books is a book written in the 1920s, called The Game of Life and How to Play It. It's by Frances Covell Shin, a white woman. And see, look, human beings can transcend that which they have been brainwashed to think and get up into the highest levels of thought, whether they be white, black, yellow, red. And so I read books by people of all races, because race is a dumb concept.
Made up.
There's only one race,
right?
The human race.
Right.
And the only reason we are preoccupied with race in America is because the concept of race was taught to us by slave traders to justify the otherwise immoral practice of slave trading.
For black and white people.
They were making the big money, but they had to justify to a Christian nation why slavery was morally right. And they went even a little further and they taught him that it was God's will, because that's why we were taught, or white folks were taught, that we were subhuman, because man has dominion and control over the animal kingdom according to the Bible. And so if we are subhuman, slavery is okay. And so the sales job was done by the huge money, the people with the huge money back in the day from slave trading, that slaving was fine because these are animals, advanced animals, but animals nonetheless. And so that was the justification.
Yeah. Well, all right. So wait. So the game of life and how to play.
Yes, how to play it. Yes, the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda.
Interesting. All right. We didn't see that one coming, but we good with it.
I'm a Christian, and I learned so much about Christianity, the deepest form of Christianity, by studying his teachings as well.
Cool. Cool.
So he was a part of my spiritual awakening. Because in the beginning, you know, I and I was talking to one of my clients, a woman I grew up with in Cherry Hill, and we came up in the Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church together. And there was this woman who taught Sunday school named Eva Lyria Murphy, who scared us so bad about going to hell that we didn't want to go back to church anymore. And so neither one of us did for a while. We stopped going because we were taught how bad we were, how sinful we were, and how if we didn't repent, I'm talking about 13, 14 years old, scared us to death. So it took me a while to re-embrace, but everybody's got to re-embrace, because the one thing that everybody needs to understand is that there is a God
Amen.
who knows it all. And he created us to be exactly the way we were and the way we are. But he gave us the freedom to progress beyond the low state of human beings into the exalted state where we all should be trying to be.
Yeah.
He taught us that there was a way to get back home to her. Because, you know, God's probably a woman.
Why wouldn't she be? She's a creator, right?
Yes, but you see, everybody's been taught that God is a man.
It's the biggest hustle.
Everybody's been taught that God is white. Everybody's been taught that Jesus was a white man. Now, one of the things I love about Islam is that they never talk about what color the Prophet Muhammad is, because it's irrelevant. But we know he was a man of color. Who else is going to come from the Arabian Peninsula? Unless he's a visitor. And what we know about the Arabian Peninsula was that the Prophet Muhammad was born there.
Yeah.
He was a native to that area. You know, he's not a white man. What we know about Jesus is that he had woolly hair and brown skin, according to the Bible. So he wasn't a white man. But if white people can define God, including Jesus Christ, as a white man, long hair, blue eyes, he got control of your mind.
Yeah, yeah. Billy, so, oh my gosh. So we literally are at time, and I'm trying to be, you know, respectful of your time and everybody who's supposed to be working. I guess y'all got us in the background at this point because your lunch hour is over. But, you know, shout out to everyone my lawyers who are listening in, who are taking down these nuggets, to the entrepreneurs, to the teachers, to the ones who do their part, right? In whatever way that is, shape, or form. I hope that Billy's words were able to remind you that there's a legacy in the work that is being done, that has been done. And to really just be inspired, to be blessed by your your words this morning, your energy this afternoon, Billy. It's always a blessing to connect with you.
Let me say one more thing before we
Please,
end. I want to
please.
leave everybody with this. Just because you're a fighter doesn't mean you have to be rude, nasty, angry, disrespectful. On the contrary, we should all learn how to be unconditionally kind. Not nice. Nice is a tactic.
Hmm.
Kind is a state of being. Kind means do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and be living examples
Amen.
of how to treat each other. Just because I'm militant doesn't mean I'm unkind. I'm unconditionally kind to everyone. If I lose my temper and start acting up, it's not my real character. It's not who I want to be. I want to be that person who touches you in a kind way, who empathizes with you and your struggles, who gives you the benefit of the doubt unconditionally. Now, I know that sounds, but we've had leaders who have epitomized that.
Hmm.
One comes to mind. He took apartheid away from South Africa. What was his name?
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was unconditionally kind to everyone and showed white folks the way back home to real civility and humanity. He protected that nation against a violent revolution. Now, whether people will be able to follow in his footsteps, because he towered over everybody. He was the greatest leader in the history of our world that we know of, political leader. Whether anybody can fill those shoes is debatable, but we ought to learn from his example. He was not vindictive. He was not out for revenge. He was out to change things for the better. And he knew that revengefulness begets revengefulness.
Hmm.
So an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth just makes everybody involved blind and toothless. And that's not how we ought to strive to be. We shouldn't be trying to get back at people. We should be trying to correct their behavior. And love is the best energy we have. That's the best. That's the greatest. Love. The ability to love everybody unconditionally. Isn't that what Jesus taught on the Sermon in the Mount?
Hmm.
Or in the Sermon in the Mount, while he was on the mountain? Yes, he said you can reduce spirituality to two principles. Love God above everything else. And why wouldn't you want to do it if you understand what God is?
Hmm.
It's not a warning. It's an invitation to embrace God. Second principle, love thy neighbor as thyself. And if you think white people got horns and tails, you're not going to be able to help them grow to the people they should be. If they thought that way about us, did that help us? No. Don't do like they do. Do like what Jesus tells us to do. And do it joyfully, unconditionally. This is supposed to be a Christian nation. Black folks, let's teach everybody what real Christianity is all about.
Hmm.
Again, two principles. Love God with all your heart, all your soul. Place no other gods before you, before him. Principle number 2, love thy neighbor as thyself. And that means be unconditionally kind all the time. It's so attractive. It turns your enemies into your friend.
Come on.
Not all the time, not immediately. But if you do it, you get better results with people than you've ever gotten before because you will stand taller than everybody. You will be the person they want to be with, whether they're white, black, pink, purple, or yellow. The kinder you are, the more you will attract others. So let us be unconditionally kind. And if we have to pick up a gun and defend ourselves, so be it. But let's don't change the core of who we are in the process. Peace.
I know that's right. Amen. Thank you so much, Billy. Thank you. Thank you. I know the comments have been coming in with just folks really, really blessed and inspired by you this afternoon. And I'm not surprised, but I am very grateful for your leadership and your mentorship and your friendship. Um, and especially as I'll tell y'all, Billy was there when I first started conceptualizing Justice Connection, right? And it was in a conversation with Billy where I was recently let go of a job and I was trying to figure out what was next. And I remember at one point, Billy had given me a book. I think it was like Fired Up that you sent to me. But it was through our conversation where I said, you know, my purpose and what I want to do in supporting Black people and uplifting Black people. And I was milling around with some options. And you said, you need to make money. You were like, don't let somebody else dictate what you do because you need their money. Make the money and then you can decide what you want to do with it. And it can fulfill the things that you want to do in the community and so forth. And I think sometimes we often think that in order to do good, I can't make money or I can't be richly
Oh, yeah.
successful, right? And it was in that conversation that I really started the process of believing, right? Like that to be able to make a lot of money. And I tell people that still to this day, when I'm on the phone with lawyers and I'm talking to them about Justice Connection and sharing a little bit of the origin story, I'll say, I want to make a lot of money and I want the lawyers in the network, for them to be able to make a lot of money. For me and my money, I plan to use it for Black liberation, to support the things that I think are important in furthering our community. And that's what motivates me when things get hard and I'm like, this isn't just about me. This isn't just about Justice Connection. This is about a greater goal, right? Of really being able to provide that education and empowerment in the law. And so I will close with, I'd love for folks to follow us at Justice Connection on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me directly, I'd love to be able to meet, especially lawyers. I want to hear about your practice and see how we can be supportive. We not only send you new clients, but we also, for the lawyers in the network, who want to expand their audience. So connecting people with speaking opportunities and publications and promoting them on social media and being that third party validator. I believe that when Black lawyers are successful, when Black lawyers are thriving, it directly correlates into increased access to justice for our community. And so I invite you to connect with us, right? Be a part of this Justice Connection family. And, next week, no, not next week, next month, we will be joined by Barbara Arnwine, who led the Lawyers Committee under the law for 25 years. And she will be a part of the final series in our she'll be a part of our final installation of the Legends in the Law series. So all of you who are joining, thank you so much for being here. Billy, I had a song we were supposed to play in the beginning, so I'm going to play the song as we just jam it on out. This was for you, our intro song. Hold on. Oh, can't play it because they don't even know we're doing the whole in the ear thing. So I'm going to let you. Billy's a boss, y'all. He's the boss. That's right, y'all. Billy is a boss, and we thank him so much for being here this afternoon. And stay tuned for our next Legends in the Law on August 19th with Barbara Arnwine. Feel free to follow us and comment, follow, share, all of that. I appreciate everybody who's made comments, who has supported Justice Connection. Edwin says, we love you, Billy. Joey, I appreciate you. Nassar, Mark, Carla, Dr. Bratton, Stephanie, hey girl, we're going to do some big things and bringing on more Black lawyers all over in the law firms. Angela, Renee, Pamela, Angela, Renee, I love you. You're from around the way. So, all right, everyone, take care. Have a blessed Friday, and we'll see you next time.